All right. Hi, I'm Andy Mann, and I'm here with Chris Kennenberg from the My Moodle Moot webinar series, and this is the first of our 2015-16 webinars. And today we're really honored to have Marcus Green from Great Britain, who is a developer of one of the question types, the Gapfill question type. And when we did a webinar last year where we were talking about different question types, Marcus contacted me and he said, hey, I like what you did. Would you like a little more information about the Gapfill? And I said, sure. So we're getting it right from the source. And he is 6 hours different from us, so he's doing this right during or after his dinner hour. But we want to thank Marcus, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to him. If you are watching this live, there is a Q&A module over on the side, and you can enter any questions that you might have. You won't see yourself. You don't have chat ability. So I'm going to be quiet and go ahead and turn this over to Marcus.
Thank you very much. This slideshow I'm going to talk over, I recently uploaded to YouTube, and you can see both this slideshow and a short animation of the question type. I'm going to talk about my fill-in-the-blanks question type and why I developed it. And Moodle, core Moodle comes with a question that's called close, which is a fill-in-the-blanks type of question. But unfortunately, it's so complex that most people give up trying to use it. And when I say most people, I was at a Moodle Moot 2 years ago, and in a room full of 80 people, and if you think that people who go to a Moodle Moot are probably fairly keen, I asked for a show of hands of who could create closed questions accurately off the top of their head, and only one person put up their hands. And it turned out that one person was one of the main developers of Moodle, so you'd hope they'd be able to do it. So because of the complexity, I'm a big fan of ease of use and good interfaces. I've created an alternative question type, which I call Gapfill. And the name, there's more to it than just plain Gapfill, but it does sum up what it does. So my key objective was to make sure that this question type was very easy to use. I like to think that it's quite pretty as well, and you should be able to see there an example of a question after a student has entered some answers. And you can see that it's just a few little things like some shadows around the clues, and after, when you have an incorrect answer, it'll automatically, if you choose the option, show what the correct answer should be. You don't have to do anything to make that happen apart from say, please put in the correct answers if you get a question wrong. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get whoever watches this, I'm going to get you to memorize all you need to know to make basic use of this question type, okay? So I need a drum roll effect here. So are you ready? All you got to memorize is a single 7-word sentence, okay? Put square braces around the missing words. You got that? Put square braces around the missing word. Let's see if you got that. Okay. If you can't learn that, then perhaps you shouldn't be using a virtual learning environment. So what does that mean? Put square braces around the missing words. So if your sentence, so this is my slightly absurd basic example sentences, the cat sat on the mat, and you wanted a gap where cat and mat was, and for the students to either type in to the gap for cat and type in the word mat, you put square braces around it. And these can be represented as either gap fill, which is type into the blank. You can have drop downs, traditional drop downs with alternatives, or the one that it defaults to, which is drag drop, where you have the right answers plus some distractors and you drag them in. In addition to that basic feature, it's got a lot of other things. It can do regular expressions. It supports mobile devices very well. It's got multiple correct answers. You can have valid blank gaps, which no other question type has. You can have a fixed gap size, so you don't give any clues. You can have a case sensitive or not case sensitive. You can have it understanding accents. You can have no gap. But the really important thing is that all you need to get started is put square braces around the missing words. Now, if there's any mathematicians or engineers or scientists listening to this, don't worry, they don't have to be square braces. You can have squiggly braces, or you can have hashes and stuff like that. But the key thing is that the audience I'm addressing with this is people who want to get started quickly, and they want to generate some questions and for students to be able to answer them. So you'll find that if you search for Gapfill on YouTube, and then there's a little demonstration afterwards of the question type in action, and you can find this question type in the Moodle org plugins database. So if your installation of Moodle is configured to install plugins automatically without having to mess with zip files or anything, you just go over to the Moodle plugins database, click a few times, and it will appear in the list of question types. Now, the current version is, I call it 1.7. It was originally the first version. Version 1 was released in, I think it was 2012, and so, as implies, there's been 7 incremental releases, and with each new release, when a new version is coming along, which it does every 6 months, I test my question type with the earliest possible version, the alpha, and keep testing it, and try to make sure that it is available fairly closely, very closely, with the release of the final version. So at the moment, there should be Moodle version 3.0 coming in a matter of weeks at the moment, and I've been testing it with version 3.0, and it will work with that. I like to, the drag and drop capability, which you saw in the screenshot there, I like to think that it's no longer the 1990s, and people expect drag and drop, and they expect drag and drop to work on mobile devices. And on the GitHub site, you can see on the GitHub site, you can see I've got a table there of somebody else did some testing. I haven't credited them, and I should do, because they did a lot of testing on a whole heap of various mobile devices, which apparently they're very popular with young people. And it uses jQuery's touch punch support for mobile devices. I haven't tried to reinvent the wheel. So it supports mobile devices nicely. And as I mentioned, I kind of gabbled a little bit there when it's a bit of humor there, that we've got all these features and all these fancy things, but the key thing is it's easy to use. But it also does things that no other question type would want, and I think has an interesting in terms of pedagogy. For example, I had there the cat sat on the mat. But if you really want to be a bit sneaky, or maybe you don't think it a bit sneaky, just you know, good education, sometimes you'd like to leave some blanks that have to be left blank in order to answer the question correctly. So, for example, you can do category questions whereby you might have a grid and some alternative things you can drag in, but there isn't an instance of one of them, and they've got to leave it blank to get a mark. And I think that's interesting. I think one of the areas that it's of potentially huge amount of use is in language teaching. And interestingly, when you talk about language teaching, is of course internationalization. And sadly, I speak English and a little bit of Australian. And in the developing of this, I've discovered the importance of international support. And so people have asked questions about supporting Arabic and Cyrillic and all these scripts that I wouldn't normally use. So I put quite a bit of effort into that, because, as I say, I think it's very suitable for language teaching.
Marcus, can I interrupt you for a moment?
Yeah, sure, please do.
I put a link over in the chat area, and that link takes us out to the Gapfill question type. And maybe you could pull that up on the screen, and as you're talking about some of these examples, you could sort of highlight them so that we can see better what you're chatting about.
Sure, yeah. Can you see that animation that's happening at the moment on my screen?
No, I think you need to change what you're displaying.
Okay, I'm just going to refresh this page because it's doing something which I really like, which I was actually just talking about, and it's the technology from the 1980s. It's an animated GIF,
Okay.
which is kind of silly and basic technology, but this is really, now I'm just going to do some clicking to move around screen sharing. Oh, this is good. This is good. Okay. Now, if I just refresh that page.
Yep, we can
behind
see it.
me. Okay, with a bit of luck. Oh no, let me just refresh the page, and this would be a good moment if I knew to zoom a little bit further. I think 1 moment. 100. Oh, here we go. Oh yes. This is much. This is only an animation, but here we go. So just refresh the page and see what happens. Oh, please work for me. Oh, it was so nice when it worked earlier on. Oh, okay. Well, the animation's not going to work, but you should be able to see the principle there. Okay. As you can see there, we've got. Can you see that at the moment? Sorry, I should check.
Yes, it looks great.
Okay. So we've got 2 categories. We've got feline and this is an example. We've got feline and canine, and the idea is that you need to put the answers into the columns. So in this context, I haven't got an example of obligatory blank here, but you can see that. This is a really interesting part about this, because imagine you're a student and you go feline and canine. Well, I know feline means sort of cat kind of thing, and you drag the tiger into the first one, and you look at the others and you go, I don't see anything else that's a feline. So you think, well, I'll drag the tiger into both columns. Bad student. And you'd think that you'd get all the marks available, because how's it going to work otherwise? There's a mode in the question type, which I think is described up here. I call it no duplicates mode. And what happens is that although it will tick that as correct, you'll only get a grade for each one correct answer. The other answer, simpler answer there, is if you've got gold, silver, and bronze for the Olympic medal colours, and you drag gold into every square, you'll just get 1, because only 1 mark is correct, which is, and again, that's a little thing that I've never seen in any other question type. And I think that that's a bit, it's a bit advanced. It goes away from the simplicity, but my idea is I want to lure people in with the extreme simplicity to start off with, and they're going to love it so much that they will learn the additional features. Did that make sense?
Certainly it did. Thank you.
Okay. So here, just to go a little bit deeper into this to see how that was done, if you can see that HTML there, I'll just make it slightly bigger by zooming in. 1 moment. Here we go. So this is working on the assumption that you can do a little bit of HTML. You can do it in the, what you see is what you get editors in Moodle, but it's quite a good idea to actually do the HTML. You can see here that for the column feline, the answer, put square braces around the missing word, but we've got 2 missing words, and the answer could be either tiger or tiger. It's using the broken bar as an or operator, and the one underneath is tiger or tiger. So that is how that works. It just uses the or operator. As you'd expect, you can have tables with images, and I've got the example there with some fruit, and you can see I've got some distractors because we've got pear and we've got apple, and the possible things you can drag in are pear, orange, grapefruit, and apple. Now, that reminds me about accessibility. One of the issues, if you've got drag and drop with, no matter how clever the programmer is, what if you're on a device and suddenly it doesn't work with that? Somebody's come up with a new mobile phone, the iPhone 8, and they're using this and it doesn't work. Well, the drag and drop is just a pretty front end into typing the text into the boxes. So as a last resort, you can always just type into any one of the boxes. Okay, so you can see there that that's interesting. I didn't know it was that behind the scenes. You might want to disable the regular expression processing. As you can see, this is getting a bit different here. For example, if you're teaching something to do with maths, this question type isn't designed really aimed at mathematicians, but you're teaching some general subjects and some maths in a question, and you want to include asterisk or a square angle brackets and that. It's not going to be any good if that's processed as regular expressions if you want them to be processed. So there's a button in it that says disable regular expressions. Okay, there's an item called fixed gap size. And the idea here is that there are occasions when the size of the gap might give away what the correct answer is. This is fairly unusual, but you might have a small number of gaps, and there is just a checkbox that says make everything a fixed gap size, and the size will be, every gap will be the width of the biggest gap. Now, here we come to what I rather whimsically call the double knot, without a K though. This indicates that a gap can be left empty and considered a correct response. In fact, if it's not left empty, it's going to be a wrong answer. And you can see from there, in that example, where a gap can either have cat or dog or nothing. Let me just scroll back up to the top here. That was the thing that was very useful when you're doing categories. Scroll, 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 scroll. Now, when I get back to the top, you will see, I'm not quite sure why this started so low down. One of the things you can see here, I've done quite a lot of documentation for it. Here we go. Oh, another important feature is that whenever people talk about third-party plugins like mine, it's very reasonable to be concerned to say, well, this is all very well, but what if Marcus Green has an unfortunate falling under a bus accident on his way to the restaurant this evening? Who's going to support it? Will I be stuck with all these questions in a format that nobody's developing anymore? And well, that's one scenario. The other is that you've just got some friends who've got some Moodle that they can't install the plugin in, but they really like your questions. Well, to address that, I've developed an export that will export to Moodle's native closed question type. You're going to lose some functionality. It'll only work properly with fairly simple questions, but it gives you that kind of comfort to know that you can always export it. One of the things I've also done, which I wish all question types had, core and everything, a whole set of sample questions. If you've ever tried to learn to use any Moodle questions and you go to the documents, and they're kind of all right, but they often have screenshots that you can't just paste in. The question type ships with an XML file that you can import, and that contains, at the moment, last time I looked, it's 20 questions with lots of explanatory text in it, so that you can get started quite easily. I can hear you. Sounds like somebody's going to ask me a question.
I was going to jump in, Marcus, and you're right at the point that I was looking at on my screen, going over the actual adding of the question right here.
Yeah.
Can you explain that kind of process briefly?
Do you mean to add the question type to your installation of Moodle?
Yeah, well, no, the actual, you were just on the page right there. It said adding a gap fill question.
Oh, yeah, I got you, yeah.
Right there, yeah.
Awesome, yeah, okay. Well, as with all question type, it has to be given a name. I think I've covered the put square braces around the text bit quite a bit, but the thing I haven't touched on is distractors, which is here. Can you see that there? Is that visible distractor? You can do that, and there's example question types to show all sort of variations that you can do with that. So you add that into there, and then after that, it's a standard Moodle question editing interface apart from more options. So as you can see there, there's a drop-down box that says delimit characters. And by default, the delimit characters are either square braces, curly braces, or hashes. If for some reason you wanted to add to those, you can go into the site administration, and there's a dialog there for adding completely different sorts of delimiters if that's what you wanted. Nobody's ever contacted me about that, so I'm assuming that for most people, square braces or curly braces are okay. In the sample questions that ship with it, I actually use curly braces because I'm trying to have a screenshot that shows square braces. Okay. We've got disable regular expressions, which I think I've touched upon. We've got fixed gap size. We've got case sensitive. In fact, there is a new version that's going to be released. It's actually available in GitHub at the moment. And there may be some cases where people want case sensitive to always default to on. For example, I think in some languages, case is much more important than in English. And as the name implies, that an uppercase letter is different from a lowercase letter when marking a question. The no duplicates option is that business where if you had the colors of the Olympic medal and you put in gold, 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 it made sure you'd only get one correct answer. It defaults to the drag drop mode there, and there is this canonical example of it being displayed as if it was for a student. This is where you get to choose which mode it's going to be in. Gapfill is just type into the blank space. Now, I've had people contact me who teach languages, and they say one of the things they like about this question type is that they create the easy version, which is drag drop with clues and all that, and then they duplicate the question and they reuse it in another exam with just gaps. And the idea is that the first version of the question you've got the draggable clues, and in the next version of the question you have to know the answer correctly off the top of your head and you type it in, and people like that. And there you go, this example of it with drop downs. I don't think I can hear a voice as a question.
Yeah, that is a great example of how a teacher would implement it. Do you have other examples similar to this?
As I say, I've got the it ships with these 20 questions that show the permutations and particularly focus on features like that. Go on.
I was just saying that explaining how on one quiz they might use drag and drop with the clues, yeah. and that's excellent for our teachers to know.
Yeah.
And so if you have any other suggestions like that.
Well, I've really had a surprisingly small amount of. A lot of this has been developed because I think it's a good idea, rather than with a lot of feedback from people. And just doing this presentation today and talking to you makes me want to create more documentation for it, and to maybe in the form of expanding this the wiki pages here, because that little idea I said to you about reusing the questions, I thought that sounded great, but I've never really documented it. So just talking to you, I think I should expand on this. So I think the short answer is no, and the longer answer is that getting that question is going to. Actually, I'm going away on holiday for a week starting this Saturday. And there's nothing I like to do more on my holiday than work on my question type. Anyway, let me scroll down. Does that sound useful? A bit more documentation on how it can be used.
I think it's very useful. We're always looking, besides the technical aspects of it, we're always looking at, well, how does the teacher utilize this to its fullest potential?
Yes, absolutely, yes. And I've just put up this one YouTube video, which is just a truncated version of what you've seen today. It's like literally the video is 2 minutes 40 seconds, and I have a plan to add some more YouTube videos, but I'd also want to add more to the documentation about how you use it. You can probably tell from my obsession with the ease of use side of it that I'm constantly disappointed with the way people end up using a virtual learning environment as a way to upload PowerPoints, not because they're bad people, but they just don't want to learn complex interfaces, and they don't want to learn anything apart from their own subject which they teach. So I think anything I can add to the ease of use and add some ideas would be really useful.
You've really kind of hit the nail on the head with a lot of teachers, is they're looking for the easy button.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, some of the things I thought about was, one of the things is adding more sample questions, but really emphasizing to people who use this question type to load them up, because I've a strong suspicion that not many people have loaded up the sample questions because, well, maybe I don't highlight it enough. It's not a cultural thing within the Moodle community. If Martin Dugiamas, the founder of the Moodle project, ever does get eaten by a mutant kangaroo, and I take over supreme command, every question type will have to ship with example questions. So yeah, that's really nice to hear that feedback, and I will definitely do some more work on what you might think of the pedagogy of using the questions, you know, in what context and what benefits. And every time I do a new release, so I'm working on a new release at the moment, it's finished actually, but I'm just like worrying it around the edges. I've been trying to think of another question with lots of explanatory text to add to it to help people to make sense of it. But it's no good if they're hidden away in this XML file that most people don't use. It's not going to be terribly helpful. It would be probably more useful if I add some text to these screens you're looking at the moment, which come up when you hit the help button. Let me just scroll down some more. Go on.
Does this import such with like the GIF format?
You can. Well, there's two ways of putting images in. You can, if you've got the editor up, you know, what you see is what you get editor, you can paste into that. Now, one of the benefits of pasting into it is if you do a backup or an export into XML, it gets saved within there. Alternatively, you can simply put a URL that points to a question anywhere on the web, and that'll show up as long as it keeps showing up on the web. I've just looked at my text here, and I ought to. I've been selling my question type here. I should tell you some of the limitations. One of the limitations is all questions, all gaps, all of the time are only ever worth 1 mark. They're never worth more than 1 mark. There's no negative marking. It's just 1 mark. And the reason behind that is keeping it simple for me as a programmer and for the end user. Okay?
Yeah.
It supports standard hinting, so you can have it so you fill out the gaps and there's a hint at the bottom. But one thing I've been working towards now for at least a year is the idea of having feedback selected by the teacher on each gap. But I'm never going to do that unless it can be done without any syntax. You know, the only syntax I want people to have to ever remember is put square braces around the missing words. And I've actually got a prototype of that. I've been working crazily on it, so it's just on a nice form, and you can do all that kind of stuff. And one of the reasons I'm doing that is because that's what you can do with the built-in Moodle close question type, as long as you've got the brain and the time to learn how to use it. And both of those people are busy at the moment. There we go. That's another example of it. I think the cat sat on the mat may be an actually terrible example of a standard question. It probably doesn't translate into other languages, but it is very simple. I'm just looking at my own text here. Any other questions?
Yeah, you kind of hinted at it. Does it import, like, so if I wanted to share questions with another teacher for their quiz?
Yep.
Can I do it as a like gift format or?
Oh, sorry, I misheard you. I didn't understand what you were saying there. Okay. So when you said gift, I thought you meant GIF, the image type.
Image type. Yeah. No, sorry.
It supports Moodle's XML import and export. Okay.
Okay.
It has to do that, I think, otherwise it wouldn't back up and restore properly. But yeah, it supports that, which means that as long as they've got this question type installed, you can export yours and they can import them. As an added extra luxury, you can there is some other code that is available on GitHub that will allow you to export to Moodle close questions, but you're going to lose a bunch of functionality with that because this question type does more than that. So the answer to your question is it exports to XML, which will preserve everything. The nice thing about XML export is it keeps pictures.
Okay. But if you were just doing just short gap fill, it wouldn't do any type of. I'm just looking for a quick way to bulk create these question types.
Yeah.
Is there any solution for that, or you have to enter them in through the?
Yeah. I know what you're saying. What you're saying is that could you create a document where you just put the square braces in and then import the whole shooting match so you didn't have to go through the clicky click in Moodle?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
But I'm always inspired by questions like that. No, seriously, that's a really interesting question, and that's going to make me, that's really going to make me think, because that is that's a teacher-centered question, and sometimes I feel like I'm very technology and feature-centered, and the simplicity of the syntax should lend itself to that bulk question creation.
Well, as we've been talking here, I installed your plugin, and I'm eager to jump on it and start playing with it. And one of the things that we, do a lot of with our teachers is sharing questions and quizzes.
Yeah.
So, getting the workflow for getting those in, that's when we look for the easy button as far as writing them up on Notepad. And have you tried importing it as a GIF format, or it just doesn't work?
I think the answer is it just won't work.
Okay.
But that you've really set me off on the thing there. That is, it's an idea that I've read about. Oh, there's a misspelling there. I've read about, and in the back of my head, I kind of think, well, why not just do the clicky click thing on the interface? And there's really, really good reasons why not. Which is tedious from keeping clicking when you just want to have a document. Yeah, I completely get that. I don't know if it's going to be easy. I don't know how quickly I'll do it or anything, but I'm not going to have to write that down, because that's really landed in my head as a desirable feature. Thank you for that.
Excellent.
That's great. That's great. Featureitis, geekitis. I am a geek. You can see here the example in the code I've got is that this is a US-UK spelling thing. In the United States, color will be spelt without an extraneous U, and you can see I've got the example here, which is not going to trouble many people. Regular expression processing. If you're that clever, it's okay. All right. Now that I feel, that's great. That's good. What else can you ask me another question? I'm excited.
Well, I had a question, and that was, and Chris, maybe you have it up. I want to see, how do I see the sample questions? But really, you'd have to have an instance of Moodle up to be able to show where that is. And I don't know if Chris, if you have yours open or not.
I've got a lot of good question. I've got a lot of oh, I know a good idea. I'll show you two things. You can see this, can't you?
Yes.
You can see my screen at the moment.
Yes.
So it's all gone quiet here at the moment. Okay. You can hear me? Tell me you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this wouldn't be available to the file containing the sample questions wouldn't be available to. Actually, wait a minute. Let me just scroll back. I think because I knew that ordinary teachers couldn't see these sample questions, I think I've added a link to it somewhere. Let me just scroll to the top.
You do have a link.
Here we go. Yeah, here we go.
XML.
You can get the text of these files from this link, because otherwise, that's an old version of them. They still work. So, as you can see here, that says that's on GitHub, and what you'd have to do is you'd have to download that and save it as XML and import it. And as you can see, that's from Gapfill version 1.4. I wish there was an easier way of making this available to people, because or installing these questions when you install it. If you look at the directory structure here, you will see somewhere. You can see here. This is the 1. Here we go. Sample questions XML. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to an installation of Moodle. Possibly realize that I've forgotten the password. That may work out that way. There we go. Come to me. I've got, here we go, Gapfill. Look, you can log in as username, student, password, test. I wonder what the teacher's thing is here. Let's see if I can log in as me. And I can show you, gosh, this site's slow. On the other hand, it's also very cheap, so perhaps. Be like me. Here we go. Hey! Okay, that's good. So, I'm going to go, actually, I'll show you the, this is actually visibly public. If you want to take notice of that, that URL up there, I think you can actually log into that here. What this website does, it shows how, here we go. So when you install it, you see it says Gapfill sample questions there. And, okay. Let's find an interesting one. Oh, I like this one. I like this one.
So Marcus, when we install it, those Gapfill samples are going to be there, or we have to do another step?
Yeah, you have to do another step. You have to import them. I could see a very good argument for having some space in the, some code in the install, so it simply installed the samples, but I've never looked into that closely enough.
So we would just go over to import over on the left and select the XML file format because
that's correct. Yeah.
Saved them. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah. Yep.
Super. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So here is one of the example questions that comes with it, and you can see that we've got some categories. They're canine, feline, and bovine, and the only clues we've got are cat, mouse, and dog. Now, obviously, a smart student might type in cow into the bottom, but we're assuming that they're only allowed to enter from the clues. So we're going to say a cat is canine, a feline rather, a dog is canine, and there isn't a bovine. So if I submit and finish and cross my fingers, and there's a drum roll. There you go. If you can see in the top left, it says we've got 3 out of 3. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing pedagogically. Maybe some people think it's being a smart aleck and trying to trick your students. But if you don't think that,
we're not seeing it. We're still seeing the sample questions.
Oh, right. Let me just, okay, let me do that again. I've just clicked preview question. Perhaps the I'll just go over to the screen share thing again a minute.
Okay.
Oh, I can. Oh, I see. It's because it's popped up. It pops up in a different screen. Of course, that's what it is. Let me do the screen share thing again. Oops, wasn't expecting that. I got him. Oh, there we go. You can see it now, can't you?
Perfect. Thank you.
Beautiful. Okay. So you've heard me doing the comment now. I'm going to take cat. Hang on a minute. Oh, no, I'm like I'm clicking on the wrong thing over here. A minute. Oops. All right, I got it. Okay. So I'm going to drag cat into feline, dog into canine, and at that point we haven't got a bovine, and presuming the instructions should say only use the clues, in order to get all marks correct, there you go. So you see you've got marks out of 3 out of 3. Dog and cat is correct. There's nothing next to bovine because there wasn't anything bovine, and that's I think that's an interesting idea. That was. Let me have a look some other examples.
The nice thing about this, though, is adding the questions through the Moodle click interface is real easy and straightforward. There's no trickery to it, and it goes real quickly. I did one while we're talking here.
Yeah, it's real straightforward. Can you see that where it says multi-word answers? I don't think you can because I think it pops. Let me just do the screen share thing again. Here's something a bit more straightforward that is kind of like this. What I'm about to show you is it's one of those things that, well, you probably hope it'd work like that. And let me just do this a minute. Okay. Okay. Can you see multi-word answers now?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think this will be very widely required or used, but if you want it, here it is. What it does, it illustrates that answers containing more than one word can be valid. So the answer to this, the whole string sentence should read, the black cat sat on the soft mat. So in the first, this is the black cat. This is the first time I've showed you what I call Gapfill, soft mat. So if I click and submit a finish there, the question type isn't. This is what happens when you pay $70 a year for your web space. It's not that fast when everybody else is using it. There you go. So that's just like a little example. And there's nothing tricky about that. There's just in the question, when I formulated the question, I just put a gap between the words. Let me go back to wherever I was. Okay. Now, I'll just describe what I've got here at the moment. I spend a great deal of my time in the Moodle discussion forums, and there's one question, example question you'll see called troubleshooting, and it's really nothing to do with the Gapfill question type, but all it is that it's a question with a bunch of HTML in it. And this is a real standard reason why people are trying to do things and the questions don't work, and that's just to illustrate that what can go wrong. This is sort of a general help, really. And let me just scroll back to the top here. And this is this is what I call I called it here any order gap fill. Let me just I like this because, as I say, that there's no I think that categorizing things is something that people want in education. You know, sort of put these things in boxes, and sometimes it's not obvious how to do that in Moodle. Let me just I'm just trying to share the right. Oh, there we go. Here we go. Okay, you can see the words any order gap fill now.
Yes.
Can you?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. Okay. And you can see there's a whole bunch of text on there. And the idea is these example questions. If I had a scrolly mouse, I'd zoom that in, but I can't. So this uses what I call the no duplicate options, which means a field can accept a range of words, but if the same word is entered into more than one field, it will only get one mark for that word. So the question is, what are the colors of the Olympic medals? And of course the correct answer is gold, silver, and bronze. But if your student wasn't quite sure and entered the same answer twice, fingers crossed it's going to work as expected. There we go. I don't know if you can read the text here, but you can see there's a yellow background to the silver and silver. There's also a tick by all of them, which implies they've got 3 correct answers, which in one interpretation is true. But the really important thing is that they only should get 2 out of 3 marks, which is the mark awarded to them. And the feedback I've given in this example question is the answer is partially correct. Note how the actual mark matches a number of unique correct answers, whatever the number of ticks is, and credit is partial because you've got duplicate answers. So that's, that's a bit sort of geeky and arcane in some ways, but it's something that I do not know that I don't believe you can do it in any other question type, putting that kind of answer. Questions, gentlemen?
I don't have any. I think you're doing a great job. I'm glad you were able to bring up this in Moodle and actually show it. That helps a lot.
It does. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this on YouTube because I was planning to make some videos to explain this, but this does explain a lot of it. Let me just make sure that you can see that. Let me just. I presume you can't see. Can you see a Moodle screen at the moment?
No,
not yet.
You will in a second if I manage to press the right. Here we. Oh, I see. Okay, right. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you some. This is the design. Here we go. Right. Oh, that's a bit odd. I say that's a bit odd because it's not showing me the what you see is what you get editor at the moment, and it's not terribly pretty without that. Come on, pretty up. Oh, what? That's a real disappointment to me, that is. Oh well, I'll go and look at something else that's prettier. I don't want to scare people off by showing them messes of HTML. Here we go. You can see there it says GFD 1.5. I think that these were the sample. These are the sample questions from the 1.5 of. Here we go. Let's have a look here. Oh, that's interesting. Look, there you go. That's a nice example. I won't display this because I have to mess around with different screens. But you can see here that I've been experimenting with Arabic text. And I discovered a year or so ago that due to a bug in PHP, my code didn't work with extended character sets. So I changed my code so it does work with extended character sets. So I haven't tried anything Chinese, but that was Arabic, and I've tried various European languages and their accents. We've got an example there. If you can see feline and canine there, which shows the syntax you need in order to have those kind of categories. Let me just scroll down a little bit further. Actually, I'll try editing that one and see if the that Arabic text was sent to me by somebody who had noticed this incorrect handling of extended characters. It's not going to be very pretty at all. It's the what you see is what you get editor for isn't working on my site at the moment, so that's pretty damn ugly. But I think. So, just in case for anybody else watching about the importing the sample questions, you can see this at the moment, can't you?
Yes.
Okay. Just to demonstrate this, how to import the sample questions. In the question bank over here, we've got the import function. It requires the Moodle XML import. You then do choose a file. And I've got endless, as you can imagine, I've got multiple installations. Should be running the oh, there you go. Look, this is my testing with Moodle 3.0, which isn't out yet. But every time you install the question type, you go question type Gapfill, and Gapfill comes with. Let me scroll down. This is the.
We're not seeing that.
Oh, okay. No, this is because of. Yeah, this is because the. I think. Can you see that one? You should be able to see that one, can't you?
No, we're still on the choose file.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, you see the choose file. You won't see me actually choose the file, but all that is just the standard choosing a file dialog. A minute.
Right.
I'll just bring that in and show you what happens after that. It's to do with. So I'll tell you what I'm doing at the moment. I'm choosing a folder which has got my install of the beta of or alpha of Moodle 3 in it, and I'm choosing my Gapfill question type, and then I'm choosing sample questions. Okay, now you should be back, and it says sample questions. I'm now going to upload that file. And now I'm going to say import, and I think it may ask me which category I want to go into. I've got, here we go. I like this bit. I should have done this on a local install of Moodle because it'd be quicker than this. I've got quite enough. So I think you can see from here, if I scroll down, there's 20 questions at the moment. And if I choose continue, and it's installed them. You can see here I've now got 39 questions in there because I'll have duplicated them because I've installed them again. And you can see from that illustration there's a picture of a cat that the image is saved in a sort of binary format within the XML. So when that's not anything clever of my question type. That's just the way Moodle can work. And we've got one here. It's called drop-down math symbol. I won't demonstrate that because I have to mess around with the screens. But there you go.
That's great. You've done an awesome job of showing us, all different sides of this and how helpful it is.
Yeah. Well, you've given me some. There is no substitute for talking to people who actually use these tools. And I get a Moodle Moot, and I'm fascinated by Moodle development and all that, and I tend to talk to developer kind of people. And I have a fantasy that everybody who develops in Moodle should have to spend a day a month actually teaching with their tools so they can really appreciate how they are used in anger. And I don't. My job these days, I was a teacher for 12 years. I don't use Moodle on a day-to-day basis for teaching. I maintain it, I program it, I think about it, and all this kind of stuff. So talking to you guys is really, really inspirational, and I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Chris, do you have any other questions?
No. Thank you very much. I hadn't installed it in the past, but I have it on our Moodle site now.
That's cool.
Yeah, looking forward to using it. Thank you very much.
That's really, really good. And if you've got any questions, you got all my contact details.
Fantastic. So, Marcus, I want to once again thank you, and I'll be sending you the link to this YouTube video. It's actually on the last email I just sent you. And I do want to remind people that we are having our Michigan Moodle Moot, and that Moodle Moot is you can get to it on mi-moodlemoot.org. This is the website. It's January 8th as the Moot, and January 7th is the pre-conference workshop, and it's in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. We still are accepting proposals for presenters. So. Also, this video will be available if you go to the mymoodlemoot.org site and you click over on the right side where it says the My Moodle Moot webinar series. You will find a link here to this has 3 different webinars that we've done before, and this one will be added within the next couple of days, and you can watch the video here along with any other resources. Like I'll put some links to the question type, and Marcus, if you're okay with it, I'll also add your email address here in case people want to email you with any specific questions.
I'll be very happy with that. If I could just add another thing to anybody who's listening to this, if you've never been to a Moodle Moot, go. It can be quite transformative to meet other people using the tools. It's really excellent. So, and these guys are obviously extremely enthusiastic. If you have any doubt, put your doubts aside, go to the Moodle Moot.
All right. Well, thanks for that. Any other last words, Chris or Marcus, for the audience?
Not from me. I think I've spoken quite enough. Just to say again, I was just thinking, I'm just going to present today, but your questions have really fired me up, and I want to thank you again for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you for all your hard work. It's a thankless job sometimes, doing the open source projects like this.
This makes it worthwhile.
All right. Well, Marcus, why don't you put your face back up on the screen? I have you broadcasting, and you can just.
How do I do that?
I
know. I got my camera turned off, and I got my camera is supposed to be turned on, but I think it's thinking about it. It's really confused. My camera's turned on, but it doesn't know what to do with itself.
If you just, I think if you click your screen share and say stop broadcasting, I think
I got you. Yeah. So if
your
I say
face may come back up.
Oh, I've stopped one thing. It's saying you. I'm clicking on my camera. Oh, what a handsome!
All right.
What a fine, handsome man! I put the shirt on specially. I look better. I look better than this in real life.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Marcus, and we'll look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you very much. Thanks, gentlemen. Bye bye for now.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.